What up? What up? What up? It's another episode of the Shark Cove. We're back to reality. We took some time off. We went on a mystical journey. But before we get into that, before we get into the slate, let me welcome my partner in crime tonight, Mr. Moose. How are you, Moose?
Hey everybody. I don't know. Tough week so far. Really busy, but we got another four-game slate to talk about, which I'm sure we'll cover relatively quickly. So excited to get started.
Yeah, I mean, I will take a minute to say that like I've looked at the slate a little bit from like the DFS perspective, and yeah, the pricing kind of it's pretty difficult. I'm also really not up to date with the majority of what's happened. I mean, I followed the scores, but Moose, I was out in a cabin in the woods, no running water, obviously no computers, electricity. There was working internet, so I could check into that extent, but it was cold. There was a lot of beer, and I went on to a mystical journey. I must say, my friend, a journey of which was pretty intense, and it's very difficult to maybe even understand where I went because I don't know where I went, but I wasn't here. I wasn't in this place. I wasn't in this place that we all exist. In fact, I went to a place that I don't even think you're supposed to go to because some beings came to me and I was like, "Who are you?" And they're like, "Look, you're not supposed to be here. So we just need to check up on you, make sure everything's okay, and then we'll
All
just
right, we
let
got
you
some
do what you got
beans.
to do." So that happened. Um, I basically thought I could do anything. Like I felt like I could fly, but I couldn't even walk. I felt like I could manifest anything. I didn't think anything was real. The lights would go completely off. They would go on. There would be different colors, hues. It was pretty intense. Let me tell you that. It makes you also think about some other things in life and kind of changes your perspective. And I've had fucked up dreams like the entire time since then. So I don't know if I unlocked a different part of my brain or if I'm in a different parallel universe than I was previously, shifted. Who knows? None of that really fucking matters, I guess. Let's talk about why why didn't I ask them about T100 Pro? Look, man, that's like not what they were there for. Like I'm telling you, I was in a much different place, and it was a very strange world. And then also, look, if you're ever going to do these things, there's these really freaking cool balloons, dude. We have these balloons that were like they were like tie-dyed kind of, but they had lights inside of them. Let me tell you, where I was, those balloons were really, really intense. Um, they were super cool. I liked them. I threw up on myself a couple times. I didn't like that. That wasn't super cool. But again, probably the best move is there's no running water to clean anything up. So best keep it on your chest there, right? So Moose, let's go into the slate. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about this first game. Some really wacky, weird things have happened in the LCK over the I don't know, last week. We had Sandbox almost knocking off Gen G. We had KDF winning a couple games, including a series. Um, we've got Sandbox coming into this as pretty large favorites, and they feel like to me like this one team in the LCK that's very good, but we're not necessarily putting them on that same pedestal that we put like a Gen G or a T1. But I think that they probably deserve that kind of you know third best team, maybe really off of the play of maybe like closer and even Envy stepping in to some extent, not necessarily filling in Prince's shoes. But this team has just rattled off wins. They're a minus 240 favorite, though. That's a tough pill to swallow here.
Yeah, you said a lot of words. I, I'm not. I wouldn't take the 240. The plus 125 is interesting, but I don't know. I think has been playing really clean. And they've been really just phenomenal in terms of how they carry themselves out in games and being able to challenge the top teams. I don't think I would lay the 2-0 either because it does seem like they have problems putting teams away 2-0. So I would probably just skip and watch.
I mean, they did take down, recently they took down. Oh, I guess they did lose a game to Bro. You're right. So they only do have 1-2-0 on the year, and that was against Nongshim. I guess one of the things looking through the LCK as a whole and looking through like their totals, they're pretty low, right? But like we know that we've always talked about how they can team fight and get some extra points by everybody having the participation in those kills. The one thing that really seems to stand out, I mean, obviously there are exceptions, but when these teams are losing in the LCK, they're not getting kills like at all. I mean, for example, Sandbox in their losses 3-1, 8-4, 3-8, and 4. Like you need them to 2-0 because they're not getting the points needed to justify, losing the 20-point bonus. I mean, that's a
Yeah, they
four
had
and a half
a
average, man.
they
It's
had a
terrible.
20 kill win against Genji, but I think that was their highest on the season. It was 23 kills. And then yeah, just two losses that were just 4 kills and 4 deaths and 8 deaths. So um I feel like it's gonna be a very, I don't know, very standard lackluster matchup where like maybe one or two exciting things happen, but I'm not I'm not holding my breath here for KDF. I think 2-0 or 2-1 obviously, and probably 2-1 in some weird fashion. Like you said, it just feels like, especially in the LCK, if a team doesn't have like an early advantage, or they lose something that is like significant in the early game, they would literally just stall until end game and hope to rip it out. But that situation is just not happening for them. Like the goal disparity is just too much, the macro is just too good. So Cliff Sandbox is good on capitalizing on that. They're just gonna, they're probably gonna do like one gank sub 15, and then they're just gonna carry that into like a 15 or 18 kill win at the max is like what I have them at. I think right now they're averaging roughly 14 kills and 14 deaths a game. So there's really not much there for me to be interested in.
Yeah, and I mean, when you look across it, I mean, even like KDF in terms of like their deaths per game is at 14.8. But a lot of these games are, like they died 11, 15, 16, 14, 12, 14, 14. There's a 20 snuck in there, but 14 and 15. And, that 14.8 is an incredibly low number, but it is actually one of the higher ones within the LCK. So I don't know. It feels like this is a spot where when I initially looked at it, before I looked at pricing, before I went deep down into it, I was like, I like Sandbox. I think that they can 2-0 here. I guess your thought process when you're looking at Sandbox, if you think that they're going to 2-0, maybe they can get an outlier in one of those two games where they do get like an 18 or 20. Because if they 2-0 with like 34 kills, I think that they have a pretty good shot of making the optimal, or some players do, as a small or large stack. I mean, one of the things that we got to think about today, Moose, is that this is a 4,700 person tournament, 15K to first. They just keep making it bigger, right? They keep making it bigger, but when they do that, you just have to get a little more creative. We're not going to see some 4-3 stack take this down by itself. If you're winning with a 4-3 stack and it's not like some sub 1% like KDF type of shit, man, like you're going to split it with like 10, 15 people, and it's not going to be nearly as much fun as winning, 15,000 if you have some weird one off. And I'm not just talking like a team one off, I'm talking like a support one off or a top one off or something like that. But let's take a look at the next game here. So just to recap, we're not really digging anything here on the betting standpoint. I mean, I guess I don't hate going the -1.5 if you think that that's going to happen. Kwangdong's been bad, man. They've been bad, but they've picked up some wins recently, and I think that's kind of scaring some people off.
Yeah.
You being
Uh,
people.
I mean, I'm definitely not team KDF here. Over the last 14, they're 4-10. Uh, they are picking up some wins, but even in their wins, they're averaging such low kills that it almost makes me want to take the under. They're so bad at getting kills.
Yeah,
So
and when we look at the team totals, yeah, we're at 20 and a half. It's again like if you think they're only going to get 14 or 15 and the team losing is going to get 3 or 4, like I mean, I think you can take some of these unders, even some of the lower ones, like the +155 at 17. Both of these teams have played some games where you're getting that +700 under 12. I mean, that's a tall stretch. I don't know if I want to go that far, but yeah, I agree with you.
yeah,
So
just yeah, let's move on to the next snoozer of the day.
All right, so we've got T1 and Brion. This is what I apparently was supposed to ask these. I named them the Astral Police, like an astral plane. They were police because they were checking up. I don't know. I don't have a better word for them. Um, so I didn't ask them about T1 and Bro. This T1 team, has still like kind of all of the same components and still the same feel, bravado, sometimes play style that makes them a feared team and makes you remember that they were undefeated last spring. But of course, they're not playing teams that are riddled with COVID injuries or substitute challenger players coming up. But when we look at this Brielle team, they're not far from it. Another team that has shown some signs of life recently. But this T1 team, again, not bringing a lot of heat. T1 or Brion not bringing a lot of heat. I mean, is this a spot where you're kind of interested in? I don't know if you're interested in betting any of this, but I don't know. Give me your take on this.
Yeah, I think the Bro plus 1.5 is actually really interesting. Primarily because T1 have really not been the type of team that they started with. They started off really strong, and then after their after they wiped KDF off the floor, they kind of struggled a little bit with a D+, and then when they went on to play HLE, they actually got upset, and they even slipped the game to Nongshim. So slipping a game to Nongshim makes me feel like T1 are really not in the same spot that we might think they're in terms of like how dominant we thought that T1 was going to be the split. That being said, they are averaging pretty decent numbers for a slate, right? I mean, they've got good kill totals when they win, uh, even though their last game was not didn't have a good showing of that, and they they do give up a lot of kills when they lose, but overall, I feel like this is going to be a same thing 2-0, 2-1, T1, and if you're playing the Bro plus 1.5 here, there's not much really to expect from them other than possibly performing well. I just don't feel like they're even because they're definitely gonna lose at least one game, and if they do somehow slip in and win, it's not going to be enough value there for you to get in the spot you need. So it's one of those situations like you said where if T1 are going to 2-0 here, they'll probably have a couple 16 or 18 kill wins. And if they're going to 2-1 here, then they're no longer optimal for the slate, and you have the same problem that we had with Sandbox.
Yeah, I think the big challenge that you have that's larger in the case of T1 is just their pricing, and we'll take a look at that in a few moments here. But even if they 2-0, let's say they 2-0 on an average score and get like a 34 kill win, or 34, two wins, like an 18 and a 16, that's pretty good. It's just like, who are you going to pair them with? Like that becomes the challenge. Like, what dog becomes interesting to you? Do you want to go play like a KDF? Are you going to play one of these dogs in the LPL? I mean, it feels like a favorite slate. And so then if you're doing that, are you going to play a support, kind of support captain line? Look, it's totally playable, especially when you have two clear and concise favorites that are going to score the most points, as we saw back when JDG and Top Esports, you had that, but like you still have to get it right. There were obviously a lot of iterations of that support lineup, or I mean, even the LEC slate yesterday, people put in all different types of game stacks that beat like everything, but like you had to have the right game stacks to do it. And I think that's something that you might run into. This Bro team, as you mentioned, has been a little feisty. They could take a game, but look, when they win, they've got 4 wins under 13 kills, under 11 for that matter. They don't give up a lot of deaths. They've just historically been like this, except for randomly they come out and they just, I don't know, like ultra feed. Could that be this game against T1? I don't know. It's possible. It's possible. When we go to the breakdown in DFS, I guess we'll take a look and kind of see if people will be off T1. Then maybe it's worth taking that chance. If people are feeling that this is the spot to attack, then maybe I don't want to be here. But we got BLG versus Team WE. I would have thought that this line would have been closer to this one, minus 650 plus 385. But WE, has 2 series wins on the year. BLG did lose to JDG, but just recently beat Weibo Gaming. Has another win under their belt. Moose, what's your read on this series here?
Yeah, WE are definitely not the WE that we have expected them to be. Which is this like, I mean, obviously the entire scheme of the team has obviously changed. They brought in different players to help fill the gaps where they felt that they had gaps in their lineups. Obviously, support, AD carry. But watching that OMG game really made me feel like they were kind of a step behind, and like they were trying to be more macro focused, and it ended up just kind of costing them. I mean, I think, I don't know, you weren't here this weekend, but WE uh, had major control in both the games against OMG, and they gave up both games. They gave up a pretty much a backdoor to OMG, where OMG finished with like 9 kills, and then the following game turned into like a 50-minute sweat fest where WE had, I believe it was a 10k gold lead, and then they slipped it, and OMG just got way too strong, and their comp really came together, and they 2-0 WE and were probably optimal on the slate. I was pretty bullish on OMG in that spot, but I feel like neither of those teams are kind of in the place where they want to be in order to compete at the level they want to compete at. And BLG are obviously a different animal. They are still kind of figuring it out, and they do have a win over Weibo. So, there is a no-brainer type of BLG are going to win this in my head. The question is, are they going to win it? In a strong and good showing, or are they going to do that typical thing where they give up a game, they don't get a lot of kills in this game, and they're more macro focused like WE was at the start of their 2 games.
So here's the thing that we've seen from BLG thus far through 3 series: JDG, FPX, and Weibo. Actually, a pretty tough task in terms of first 3 games. FPX is feisty. The other 2 teams are 2 of the favorites to win the LPL. Right? They have been dropping games, but I mean, it's almost been to their benefit from a DFS standpoint, right? Like, because when we see a team and they lose a game, we want them to lose a game in such a fashion that they're outscoring the 20-point bonus. Their losses, they've got 17, 18, 10, and 14 kills. I mean, their kills per game in losses is almost as high as their kill per game in wins. As a
Mm-hmm.
matter of fact, their kill per game in wins is one of the least exciting things that I can look at: 13, 17, 12, 14, and 22
Yeah,
for an
15.6.
average of like 15.6. So I guess the one aspect outside of like the fact that we think BLG is the much better team here, we think that they're going to win a 2-0 or a 2-1. This team has given up a ton of kills when they lose, right? 22, 25, 22, 22 to much better teams. But is FPX that much better than WE? I would say that they're probably, in the same category, right? Like, look, we've seen WE and FPX play each other, right? So that was a pretty close series. And I don't know. I think WE could end up being in the optimal pretty easily. They're probably one of my favorite dogs. That's out of the first 3. The next one obviously feels like it's probably going to be the chalk dog. But yeah, I don't know. I might just go completely against BLG because they are the backbone of my best ball teams, and so if they win, at least I have that. But you know
But
that's
like,
all.
yeah, both of these teams, like what you're saying is that both of these teams do have that potential to go off, right? Like they do have that go off potential, and I think that WE are a great choice tonight for tournaments, because WE were absolutely awful. Like they had 2 big leads that they absolutely threw. So they had good leads against OMG where they showed strength, but then they just fell apart. And I think anybody that watched the Saturday game isn't going to be on them too heavily to for an upset. I think they're going to be more focused on trying to fit BLG in. To reply to Savage, are BLG the chalk stack tonight? Well, they're priced roughly where T1 is, and it's really hard to fit BLG in your lineups tonight. So I don't think we're going to see a lot of BLG stacks tonight.
Got it. All right. Well, let's move on to the next game. Let's take a look at this last one here. We've got Team Always Optimal LNG, and then we've got OMG, a team that's always really difficult to get a read on. Not so much like their play style, but I'm trying to get a read on what other people are thinking of this team. I feel like they're so hot and cold. Again, not talking about their play style, talking about how the people, the public, the players perceive this team and whether or not they're going to carry some ownership. This might be a slate where they do, partially again because there's not a lot of options, in my opinion, in the LCK. Not even like not good dogs, not good dogs that score well, neither of those things. And so you're kind of left with going to WE or OMG. And out of those, I think people will go to OMG. But Moose, you and I know, we've talked about it many times, right? LNG is always optimal.
Yeah, there's pretty much very little doubt in my mind that LNG and the way they're performing right now is something that we really need to take into account. Their first three matches again have their first two matches against TT and RNG were not very spicy. But their last matchup against RA, I mean, they just absolutely dominated, right? A 28 kill and a 17 kill win. They have a ton of upside. They have great players. The cohesiveness of the team and the way they are playing is really a step up from the competition right now. And I would be very excited to watch LNG play against some bigger names here. LNG's upcoming schedule gets a lot harder. They're gonna be facing teams like NIP, BLG, WBG, Edward Gaming, and then Top Esports and JD back to back. So they're kind of making their rounds and just kind of finishing off working through the teams right now that they know they can beat. And I feel like playing LNG in cash tonight is a really simple spot. I really thought that pricing would make me want to play more BLG tonight, but because of how the pricing is overall, I feel like the you just want to like if LNG win and you mash LNG into your lineups and you take the money, uh, I wouldn't be very surprising. And Somebody asked in the chat, could stacking LNG BLG with a one-off work tomorrow? Well, I mean that depends the one-off you're going for, but if you're
Well,
looking for a
Moose, we
tournament.
first. I mean, our BLG going to be the chalk stack tonight? It's up on the board here. I don't know if we really addressed that. Are they going to be the chalk stack? You don't seem to think so,
No, I
correct?
think they're too expensive. They are way too expensive to be the chalk stack
Okay,
tonight. Their players are all second second largest price compared to T1, and T1's the largest price. So I feel like you're probably going to see BLG sprinkled in with Sandbox and LNG all over the place.
got it. All right, so then let's go ahead and let's address this other one. Could stack an LNG BLG with a one-off work tomorrow? I vote yeah. I mean, I think that that's probably what most people are going to like. I mean, that's probably going to, when we're talking about chalk stack combinations, I think a lot of people are going to try and make that work. Hey, look, you don't, people are getting creative. They're catching on to these things. Like, an example of creativity that I don't think that we always see from everybody, but we saw a ton of it yesterday, Moose, was you couldn't get 4 IG with like a carry captain unless you like just did a 2 carry, like a 3-4, right? So you did like a UCal or a Wong Fong or something like that. Uh, we saw a lot of that. I saw a ton of them. I saw different variations, every variation. Maybe that was optimizers, maybe it wasn't, but I think that you're going to see a lot of people, figuring out what they can do with that one off, whether it's LSB, whether it's T1, whether it's just a cheap team. People are going to find a way to get the two LPL favorites in their lineup.
Yeah, for sure. There's no doubt in my mind that the way you want to be different tonight is either playing the LPL dogs or by playing the LCK matches and going for the good all going for the good all 14 kill LNG wins where they just wipe the floor with OMG because OMG have no early game.
So you're not buying into anything that OMG's, selling here in terms of like this team being better coming off the lunar break. They did have a pretty convincing win against WE, but they had the win against LGD and the loss against RNG. Like we just don't have a huge body of work here. But that being
Based on
said, that being
based
said,
on what I saw, no. Based on what I saw, OMG was not good. I mean, maybe it was just an off day for them, but falling behind sub 20 minutes to WE in both matchups was really weird. Like the only reason why they brought it back was because WE had no mid game and they had no late game, but they were completely behind to start both games. And LNG are just not gonna let up. I feel like they're just gonna start hot and finish hot.
well, yeah, let's be fair. So I didn't watch the LNG series versus RA, but I did watch the LNG versus RNG series. And if you're talking about a team that doesn't have an early game, doesn't have a mid game, LNG like very well should have lost both of those games, but was able to find fights that completely flipped the entire series or flipped that entire singular game and ended both of those. So I don't know. I mean, I guess we're putting a lot of credit towards LNG. They haven't dropped a game, right? They're 3-0, 6-0 in matches, but they
Yeah, they
beat
do.
TT, who hasn't looked that very good, right? They beat RNG, who haven't looked that good. All you motherfuckers that wanted me to put them in the S tier, shame on you. Shame on every one of you.
Oh.
They were an A to
They're
B
pretty,
tier team at best. S tier,
they're,
shame on you guys. And then RA, yeah, I mean, look, RA had a pretty nice win against NIP, but maybe they're not that good either. So this LNG resume is not that um, impressive, I guess I should say.
Sorry, I was muted for a second. Yeah, I mean the LNG resume right now is not impressive. And obviously they're just kind of powering their way through teams that they should be easily 2-0ing. Until the NIP matchup, I feel like OMG are they're better. They to their credit they are the best competition that LNG are gonna see. Like I don't think RNG is competition, and I don't right now, and I don't until they figure out their lineup, and this is gonna be the best competition we see from LNG. But at the same time, it does feel like if they do dominate, I wouldn't be very surprised. And so far, LNG does feel very much like they're going to dominate if OMG show up the same way they showed up on Saturday.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Well, let's hop into your favorite segment. We are going into cash game picks, plays, and funds to, I don't know, I was going to rhyme something there. But anyway, cash games. Just pretend that never happened, guys. So where do we start, Moose? I want to first thank Free Rolls for the projections. Didn't feel like putting them together today. Didn't have the time. Didn't have the motivation. I know my guy Free Rolls puts them together. Usually they're pretty close to mine, and it's just hard to turn down free projections.
So now that I don't have a cruncher, how is Fantasy Labs? Is it good?
I mean, it doesn't have Zika. Zika's not
Yeah,
in there.
that's the only reason why I didn't even check them was because they don't even
It's
have the
not
players. And Zika
not
tonight
there.
feels like he could be bussing.
Yeah, well, let's talk about it. Where do you want to go for cash games? Like, let's just start here. Let's start. Let's put all the favorites. Let's put them on the board. Let's throw them together. Let's see what we got. Eh, Look, T1 and Sandbox, they're included in this, but it looks like what the system loves is this BLG. I can't say that I hate this. I actually like this quite a bit.
Yeah,
This is a,
there's nothing that I don't. I mean, I love that lineup. I'm also interested in what one off Alvin is working with. If he has maybe a sandbox player in there to kind of make this even spicier. Maybe you get like a scout up top or like a Gao up top or something, and just one LSB player could also make this. But this just naturally looks really good. You have a lot of upside from a lot of good players already.
well, the problem is I don't know how much you really gain by going to LSB because when you look at all of these, so first of all, LNG is the least expensive team slot there. Uh, LNG is like just basically the least expensive across the board, except for like right here in your mid lane and right here in your jungle. Do you want to play Willer over Tarzan? Do you want to play Closer over Scout? Like, look, I think that closer has been fantastic so far this season, and really has kind of carried this team and really, I don't know, just stepped up and taken his game to another level, even if necessarily the fantasy points aren't there. But I don't want closer over Scout, because Scout's another guy that just absolutely has a very high range of outcomes to be the highest scoring player on this particular slate, right? So I don't know. This is probably the cash lineup. This is probably, my head to head lineup if I'm playing head to heads. And I would even consider this maybe in winner take alls. Let's see.
Yeah, for sure. I think that Zika probably has a chance to outscore Ben, but we don't have Zika on your list. But Ben's last performances have been uh pretty lackluster when it comes to top lane. Probably because BLG is just winning without him. 65 points and 58 over in the last two wins, as opposed to Zika. Zika's obviously going to have same thing, 75, 65 points. So
Well, the nice thing too is you could put. So let's take a look at something here. If I was to play, so Zika is 6,000. Okay, so I don't have somebody here that's 6,000. What about any of these dudes? Demon and no. Okay, so the
what's he
problem, I
projected
guess.
for?
Oh, I'd have to go look somewhere else. But I think you could put him in. You'd save $4,000, so you'd have an extra 600 to play with. Um, or you could go get like the BLG team slot, or we could go back to this. Give me a second. So if we put this here, if we save an extra $400, you could go get a. I think the only thing that I'd really want to maybe even consider is going like on. Like you could do that, but that's not enough. I think you could do a one-off Kale. I probably like this lineup with a one-off killer Kale. That dude just absolutely fucks. He gets some kills. We're gonna have some kill props on him, and I think that's a spot that you could go to. So I don't
Yeah,
know.
one thing I would definitely watch out for is that both supports tonight are they have been performing well. Overall, ON has been just playing really well in terms of points scored and hung. 77 and 80 points. They are, there is going to be regression because they are supports, but if you can get 80 points out of a support, then you're killing it, regardless of which support you pick. Like either of these guys tonight are capable of doing that. So
Sure. So Gelati has chimed in. Both top lane matchups in the LPL are hyper volatile. There's going to be a high scoring top laner tonight. Let's just hope it's not Bertle, right? Zung led BLG in scoring against Weibo. Yeah, I mean, look, he's always been that guy, but he's just never consistently been that guy, and that's the biggest thing that I have a problem like buying into him on a week to week or game to game, series to series basis. Love having him on my best ball teams because he can definitely be that guy, but they just have to let him cook, right, Moose? Like they let Kenvy cook this weekend. I hear. Did Kenvy play a Kindred game? Did they win that game? I don't know. That's a whole different league, but you got to let guys cook, right? Sup captain. Been scored over 30 once in their wins. It's true. BLG team spot scores higher than LNG. Yeah, look, I like swapping out Zika there. Let's put him in, and you can put a BLG team slot. You could do something else. That's probably the way to go. It's probably the better fit. I don't know. Moose, what do you want to play with from a GPP standpoint? What do you want to see?
From a GPP standpoint, I think probably OMG would be probably my favorite GPP spot tonight, or WE would be great.
So let's take a look. OMG, I mean, get whatever you want. Go with Owner and Gumi. I think you can even do some weird stuff here. You go with OMG, you put Abel in, you go Faker and Owner. Get Gumi out of there. I guess you can't because if you're going with Abel Captain, But you could one off, right? Like you could one off. You could go add somebody like Elk or somebody along those lines. That's a combination there. But we're at what 504 between those two. OMG. See, I think that this is another mistake. So the way that I'd probably do this one, Moose, if it's me, I'm the one building the lineup. Maybe I go with the boy cream, right? So if you go with the boy cream at captain, I think it's going to force in a Willer Closel. Like I like that. I'll probably play that. That feels good if we're looking at dogs.
Yeah.
Let's see. Do the odds make this slate cut and dry, or will a dog pull an upset? Look, I think that we've seen. It's not even not necessarily that you need a dog to pull an upset. I think if a dog pulls a game in every one of these series, and it's not a bunch of 2-0s, then it makes it very interesting if somebody can 2-0, and then how do they 2-0? We've talked about how BLG is really good in their losses. They score a lot of points. So if BLG wins 2-1, I think it's even better for them. So maybe that going up against WE, who some people think it has a shot to win this or has a shot to win a game, is even more beneficial to BLG than we're saying. If you believe Moose, and I'm not sure that I do, that BLG won't be as popular as some of these other popular or favorite teams, then maybe that's a great spot to get some leverage. I tend to believe that BLG is going to be a little bit higher owned than probably anybody else on this slate. And I'm going to tell you why, Moose. I don't think that your initial assessment's that far off, but when we look at the favorites, right, and we look at their pricing, BLG is not even the most expensive, right? They're not the most expensive. T1 is the most expensive. Sandbox still has that kind of feeling where they're not that good and they don't score a lot of points. And so I think that people won't go there. And then you've got LNG, who's going to be who's going against OMG, who's going to take some of their ownership. They absolutely will, and they'll take more of it than WE. I think BLG probably comes in as the highest owned team.
Yeah, I think so. I think BLG and LNG will be the chalk just because of how high priced T1 is, and people will probably be overlooking Sandbox for a good reason.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing that I'm afraid of is waking up and taking a look at OMG ownership, right, and it being 5 to 10 points lower than what I thought it was going to be. I think that these guys, I mean, if I had to put it, I think BLG probably comes in like 25 to 30. That's kind of their percentage. T1's right under there, more like a 20 to 25. Sandbox probably in that 15 to 20 range. LNG probably in that same like kind of like 20 range, maybe. And then you got like OMG in there like between 10 to 15, but maybe they're like 5%, right? That would shock me. KDF and Bro, sub 3%. WE, probably more like 5 to 10. That's just kind of the way that I kind of look at these teams and think of it.
Yeah. Definitely think we got the slate down. So I think that, yeah, GPP wise, WE and OMG are definitely going to be the interesting plays, especially because WE just lost 2-0. So anybody that didn't watch the game will just be like, oh, okay, well, they suck, so they're probably going to lose to BLG. And yeah, OMG also, like we said, best competition LNG has seen yet. So I'm very interested in those two teams. So I think the more I get excited about the LPL, and every time we get excited about LPL matchups, it feels like there's always a drawback where like the LCK teams either outscore or play on the same level, and then we end up getting like a weird LCK optimal type of night. So I
Yeah.
mean, it just feels like it can always rebound in that direction. But yeah, I mean, all signs point to LPL tonight.
Let's see. Let's see. All right. Well, last part of the show, Moose. We've done pretty well on these. Our sponsor, to some extent, got this. Just while we're getting over to that site. Thanks for the little graphic here, Cookie. It's not the easiest thing to see, but that's kind of my fault, right? If we go down here, it's a little bit easier to see. So let's go ahead, Moose. I don't have a lot here in the account, but let's run everything up and let's see what we can do. Of course, if you want to get on this fun, I've seen a lot of people using it in the chat, Moose. I've seen a lot of people having a good time playing some of these pick'ems, whether it be for these larger leagues or even some of the smaller ones, the academies, stuff like that. We take this off the screen. Let me make this a little bit bigger. And let's start it off with the higher lower. All right. So you don't need basketball. We're going to go to LOL, obviously. Moose, we've got Elk, BLG, 10.5. We've got Bew, 3 kills. Do we like anything on the board right here?
Elk at 10.5, I feel like is kind of almost a lock, but I don't know. Maybe Nathan thinks different, because if you Elk over his last 3 matchups has 13, 18, and 14 kills, all
Okay.
with all close to 1,000 CS. And even in his worst performance, quote unquote, worst performance from a fantasy perspective, he still had 14 kills. So I don't know, 10 might be, usually when I look at 10 or 9, I think to myself like, wow, that's a lot of kills. But based on this past performance from this split, it feels like 10 is low for Elk.
Give me a second here. I'm making this banner for Cookies, but he loves the scrolling, so I want to make him his own banner. There we go. So we're thinking Al Khair here, right? Let's take a look at some of the other games. We want to stay away from supports. We're going to make a support centered one because our boy Killer Kale is on the slate, and we want to go there. But we've got Tarzan and we've got Cream. Now, this one becomes a little more interesting. I think when you look at the way that these guys are positioned in this, you got Tarzan at 6, Cream at 5. This is like, can OMG get one game? And even if they do get one game, does Cream get enough in that game and enough in the loss to justify going over 5? Can Tarzan, I mean, I think in a 2-0 he probably does this, but they've seen 24, 25 kill wins. We need some more, we need some more death. We need some more action on the Rift to get over 6 kills. What if he gets stuck on Sejuani, or Vi? You can get kills, you just don't get a ton, right?
Yeah, the jungle is always a kind of I feel like where Underdog is going to make their money, because you never know unless it's like even any of the junglers tonight. Just feels like it's possible that they just don't get the numbers they need to get because of the fact that they can play these type of Maokais and Sejuanis. So 6 kills for Tarzan is probably right where he should be at, given his average over his last 3.
Okay.
I'm really
But
not.
do you
I
think
would
these
really
games are
not.
going to be bloodier than like the average over the last 3? I mean, their average over the last 3 games, I mean, 10, 14, 17, 28, 13, and 20. They've had some pretty low kill outputs as a team. If you kind of jump that up and we get 17, 18, 19 kills, probably a lot easier for them to get to that 6. But if they drop one of these games, that becomes a mountain that's too high to climb, I think, in a lot of cases.
Yeah, I would probably avoid it. I don't know. I mean, I would lean towards the over, but it's you never know where they're gonna put him.
I'm not trying to make you do anything you don't want to do. Okay.
What's up with PP God? Or we don't talk about supports on the slate.
We're not doing. We'll do a support separate ticket. We don't like to mess with that kind of volatility.
He's not
here
even in the. He is in the pool. Yeah, there he is. Yeah.
Yeah. What about Willer at 3 kills for LSB, and then we've got Bulldog at 4 kills for KDF.
Yeah, Wheeler is definitely interesting. It's kind of same thing. His last performances have been, pretty much on 3 kills. 3 kills against Gen, 3 kills against Nongshim. He had a couple 7s and a 5, but then when they got owned by D Plus, he just put up a flat 0. So I think if they do 2-0, Willer at 3 kills is pretty much a a done deal.
Right, right. But if they don't, they only put up 3 kills. It becomes a problem there. So I don't know. Let's come back to that one. I actually kind of like it. I think LSB does 2-0. I think he ends up. The problem is, I think, even in your best scenarios, he's getting maybe 4 or 5. Like, it's going to be a sweat, right? This isn't something like you end game one and he's got 4 kills and you feel good, right? Like, they might win game one and he's got 3 kills and he might end up with 3 kills throughout the series and you push on that line. I mean, or like the worst thing that could happen is he got 2 kills in a win. They lose game two, he gets 0, and you just like lose the overall ticket for it. But what about this Bulldog guy? Double LD, pretty big with the big B and the big G, but the little vowels is, I guess, the way we could call this Bulldog. Little vowels, 4 kills. Feels kind of good to me, man.
Yeah, even I don't know
Like
because even
lower,
in
lower,
the
like lower, not
lower,
higher,
yeah,
lower.
lower, yeah, lower feels good. Lower feels good. I always think about the over, but yeah, lower definitely feels good.
So I think we'll table these two. We'll table the Willer. Table the Willer. Table the Bulldog, because I think that the way that you play these two is together, right? Like, because if Willer's going to go over, it's almost like Bulldog's going to go under, right? Like, they're pretty heavily correlated the way that these guys perform in wins and losses. I think that's probably the case in most of the LCK matchups, just given the low output that we've seen in losses. So we might come back to that. Let's go ahead and quickly take a look at T1. We've got Zeus at 6 kills. We've got Henna at 4.5. I will tell you, on average, Zeus is 3.5 in a win, 1.2 in a loss, making this a pretty close one. I think I want to stay away from Zeus on the higher or the lower. And then when it comes to Henna, I'm a little bit more intrigued by this, but I do think that Bro gets 2-0'd here. I probably want to stay away from this one too. I think it feels pretty on point. I just don't know if Henna gets there in 2 losses.
Yeah, I think I actually really like Henna under because so far in their O2s, Henna hasn't been able to crack 2 kills.
Okay, so let's do it. Let's go with the Henna lower. Let's hop right into the rivals. So this is a little bit more fun here. We've got June versus Bin. How do you feel about this one?
June versus Bin.
Or Bin versus Yagao, or Yagao versus June. All of these are right here.
Man, Bin 5-7, but June also 6-5-6, and Yagao kind of like Yagao over Bin, honestly. It
Okay.
kind of feels like it's a Yagao. I think Yagao over Bin is probably, statistically probably just almost it almost feels like a trap line.
Okay.
Other than
Well, we
other
don't
than
we
one,
don't have to fall for it. We don't have to go into the trap. We can
well,
there are
I mean,
others. There
I'm
are
just
others we can go to if you're not sure yet. Like, if you don't
well,
feel super strongly,
Gelati
let's.
scared me because Gelati's like, oh, we're gonna have some pop off junglers tonight. Well, Bin absolutely bodying Bubu is something that I could definitely see happening, right?
All right. So the chat is telling us to stay away from Tarzan, but they do like the Willer pick. They like it. Hey, look, if the chat gets behind the pick, we will let the chat make a pick, but we're gonna need to see it in the chat. What about Hope versus Shanks? Hope versus Hang. Hang versus Shanks. Do we want anything to do with this WE team that has a possibility of just getting 2-0'd by BLG?
Yeah, I think that if there's anything that we're aware of so far is that Hang is just not where he needs to be as a jungler. Uh, it just feels like he's just getting absolutely carried when it comes to WE in these games. Like the guy's early game is okay, but he it's like he goes into a forest and takes mushrooms at the 15-minute mark. So it's tough for
I
me to
will,
like.
bro. I will tell you, it takes a little longer to kick in than that. But if he spent like the first like an hour before the game taking the mushrooms, I can tell you where I was. I could not walk, let alone play jungle at an LPL level. Let's so look. Would you rather go with Hope with the 3 adjustment, or would you take Shanks? Like, I almost feel like Shanks with the 2 adjustment feels a little bit better.
Yeah, Shanks does get kills, even in losses, even in their even in their 0-2 loss, he got 7 kills. Their 0-2 loss to EDG, he has 7 kills. So in losses, he's still getting a lot of kills. Whereas I imagine that Hang is probably not really getting up there in the kills. Yeah.
No,
I
he's not. I mean, like I think that this becomes stronger if we think that they could win a game. Like I think it almost becomes an absolute lock. We again look. If you don't love it, we don't need to play it. We've got a couple more games. We've got a couple more slots. We don't need to force anything. But we'll circle this one.
Yeah,
Circling it.
that one I definitely like. I'm on the edge about putting it for sure. The Zika ones are interesting.
Yeah, well, how about this? We've got Zika versus LP. We've got Scout versus Zika. We've got LP versus Scout. Um,
Let me see. Yeah, I mean, I really think that's like if LNG 2-0s, we're gonna see Scout probably get 10 kills. So I definitely think that there's an opportunity there for Scout. I think uh, Scout can easily outkill LP as well. So I kind of like that one. And yeah, I would almost just take that one. Just take the Scout over LP.
so let me walk through something real quick here, though. I think that's what Free Rolls is recommending, but I almost think like the Scout over Zika is one that I might be more interested in. And let me tell you why. If they lose a game, or even if they don't, do we think that maybe Shanji is just I don't know, like prevents him from getting some of those kill totals, or do we think it enables him and that we want to go with LP? I mean, I'm totally okay with going with LP if that's what you want to do.
Yeah, because
Scout over LP.
I'm just under the impression that like no matter how good Shanji is, like Tarzan is going to be all over helping Zika, and I feel like Zika's going to get his 8 to 10 kills, um, regardless of what happens in the game. Even if they do drop a game, I could still project them for 6 to 8.
Okay. What about this one here? We've got Shanji and we've got a Kai. We've got the chance to go with a Kai or Abel over a Kai. Both of these guys, I mean, Shanji and Wins has been absolutely phenomenal. He actually projects and wins to have more kills than Cream and Abel on a median level, but kills and a loss are probably about the same. We think LNG 2-0s these. I don't know if I want to touch anything, but I almost, in those situations, do like getting the extra kills on my plate. I think Shanji probably over Abel would be my favorite spot there. I'm just going to be real with you, Moose. No cap here, even though I probably need one. My hair is in an awkward place right now as it's growing out. I feel like kind of like quick shot last year, but I don't want any of these three.
Yeah, even I feel like if they get too owed, then the Aki bet kind of sticks. You know, like with the how much handicap Aki is getting here. But if we think that OMG can take a game, then Aki falls off hard to Shanji and Abel.
Fair. What about Bertle, Envy, closer, Bertle?
I like
Bro,
Envy.
his hair looked terrible last year. It's in a good spot now. Like as you grow out your hair, you get some really awkward places. That's all it is. I'm sorry, Moose. This guy is just absolutely acting a fool in the chat.
I like Envy. I like Envy over Bertol. What is the line on that one?
Envy over oh, it's a 3 though. That's the thing.
Ah, okay. Well, that makes things a little bit more complicated. Let's see closers
Closer
performances.
versus Bertle is a 2, and I think that they're pretty similar actually.
They are
Um,
pretty similar, yeah, in
well, I
terms
meant
of
they're
skill.
similar. Look, Closer and Envy are pretty similar. Is what I meant. So I'd almost go with that Closer over Bertle if I was going to pick one. If I was going to pick one.
Yeah, I think like Bertol is just consistently like if I had to project him, I would project him for 6 or 7, 6.5. Like that's where I would put his kills at, right? For the whole series, I would put him at 6.5. So if I put him at 6.5, taking a look at closer, uh, yeah, closer is like not that far behind. He's averaging about 7.7.
Okay.
So I don't know. Feels like we're either gonna see closer drop 8 kills or 7 kills, or he goes off and gives us like a 13, 14 kill game.
So let me ask you this: we're gonna skip over the KDF ones. We only need 2 more. We've got the Willer and Bulldog, tandem. I mean, I think we like the Willer one. I think more than I think about it, I really want to add the Willer. In fact, I'm gonna add the Willer. So then the question becomes, can we take something out of this T1 one here? We've got Faker +2 over Gumi. We've got Owner +3 over Gumi. We've got Faker ceding 1 kill to Owner. I like.
Well, Owner's averaging 9 kills a game. Oh, sorry. Gumuis is averaging 9 kills a game. Owner at 9 kills a game, though. That'd be
I don't even think Owner has 9 kills this year yet.
Owner's averaging 4.8. He's got at his best at the start of the year, he was averaging 8-7 and he had 8-7 and 7. So he was so his average has dropped down significantly. So I definitely do. I mean, I wouldn't take the 3, but the Faker one is really interesting. Faker's averaging 9 kills a game right now, as opposed to Owner's like 4.7.
Well, do you want to take the Faker over Owner, or would you even take like Faker getting an extra 2 kills over Gumi?
No, I would just take the Faker over Owner. I think that's a lock.
Okay. We got 20x Moose. We got 20x. Do we need to buy insurance on this?
No, we never buy insurance.
Well, we did the last time, and the last time we did a 5 pick, it saved us because fate sold us. Okay, so we do buy insurance sometimes. But okay, so we'll go ahead and take this. What was one of the lines that we kind of stayed away from that we weren't so sure about? We're going to add that on a kind of a higher volatility ticket. I know one of the ones that I wanted to do that I liked.
Bulldog.
That we didn't go
like
to.
Bulldog.
But Bulldog under is not really like what's going on here. That's not well. That's a 1. Let's see. We got Willer. We got Gale. Bulldog. Zeus. No, I want to go to our boy. Where is our boy? Kale. We want to go with Kale higher, the 1.5. This guy gets kills. We want to go into rivals. I think we liked. Did we like one of these? Did you want to go with the Yagao over Bin? Is that something that you're feeling? You felt like it was going to be a Yagao night, right?
Yeah, I think we did talk about that one, right?
Okay.
We did talk about that one.
And then I think we need to take Shanks. Do we want Shanks over Hope? Do we want Shanks over Hang?
I'll do Shanks over Hang easily.
And then yeah, I think we just roll with that. Let's just do a 6x on this.
It's Kev's birthday, and you didn't bring him on the show.
How the fuck am I supposed to know it's his birthday, man?
He could tell us.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't know that. Happy birthday, Kev. Happy birthday. In fact, give me a second here. I got something for you. Just for you, Cookies and Kev. Happy birthday, Big Kev. There we go. There we go. All right, so we're going to submit this. We're going to rock and roll. Again, look, you can do these same picks. You can do a lot of other stuff. Just going here. Maybe we'll change this. We'll change this graphic so it's on something better. Maybe it's a little bit smaller. Maybe it's someplace else. It was sent to me in the middle of the show. I'm sorry I can't crop it and put it in the corner. I don't got those type of skills. But Moose, any last comments? It's good to be back. It's good to talk to you. It's good to have your insight here on some of these games. Let's go win $15,000. How are we going to do it?
How are we going to do it? 15
How are we
Gs.
going to do it?
You definitely want to play like some 4-2-1 with probably like a 4 LCK stack.
Fair enough.
That's where find the ownership and abuse it.
I will leave you with this.
Leave me with that.
It's wisdom that we always know. LNG is always optimal. See you later.